Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So welcome to our Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya daily reading class. So today we will start Srimad Bhagavatam 4th canto, 8th chapter. Guru Maharaj go to forest, return home, 9 chapters. So we'll continuously reading Srimad Bhagavatam 4.9.4. So we will recite after that where we will stop reading. So before reading, we'll start Mangalacharan. So you can see at the screen Srimad Bhagavatam 4.9.05. So before reciting the slok, we'll recite Mangalacharan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Jaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayo Mudiraye Rashtraprayeshu Avadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtiki Mukam Karti Vachalam Pangam Langai Te Grim Yatkipata Mahang Mande Shri Niratarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sichaitanya Visharam Namayam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavani Pasatu Deshtarine. Hare Krishna. So 4.9.5 Guru Maharaj return home. Savai Tadaiva Pratipaditam Giram Daivim Parikyata Paramatma Nirnaya Tam Bhakti Bhavo Bhayagrinat Asatvaram Parisrutaru Sravasam Kshiti. Translation. At that time, Dhruva Maharaj became perfectly aware of the Vedic conclusion and understood the absolute truth and its relationship all living entities. In accordance with the line of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, whose fame is widespread, Dhruva, who is within the future, would receive a planet which would never be annihilated. Even during the time of dissolution, offered his deliberate and conclusive prayers. Purport. There are many important items to be considered in this verse. First of all, the relationship between the absolute truth and the relative material. The spiritual energies is here understood by a student who has complete knowledge of Vedic literature. Dhruva Maharaj never went to any school or academic teacher to learn the Vedic conclusion, but because of his devotional service to the Lord. As soon as the Lord appeared and touched his forehead with his counsel, automatically the entire Vedic conclusion was revealed to him. That is the process of understanding Vedic literature. One cannot understand it simply by academic learning. The Vedas indicate that only to one who has unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord as well as in the spiritual master is the Vedic conclusion revealed. The example of Dhruva Maharaj is that he engaged himself in devotional service to the Lord according to the order of his spiritual master, Narad Muni. As a result of his rendering such devotional service with great determination and austerity, the personality of God had personally manifested himself before him. Dhruva was only a child who wanted to offer nice prayers to the Lord, but because he lacked sufficient knowledge, he hesitated. But by the mercy of the Lord, as soon as the Lord's counsel touched his forehead, he became completely aware of the Vedic conclusion. That conclusion is based on proper understanding of the difference between Jiva and Paramatma. The individual soul and the super soul. The individual soul is forever a servant of the super soul, and therefore his relationship with the super soul is to offer service. That is called Bhakti Yoga or Bhakti Bhava. Dhruva Maharaj offered his prayers to the Lord not in the way of the impersonalist philosophers, but as a devotee. Therefore, it is clearly said here, Bhakti Bhava, the only prayers worth offering are those offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose reputation is spread far and wide. Dhruva Maharaj wanted to have the kingdom of his father, but his father refused even to allow him to get on his lap. In order to fulfill his desire, the Lord had already created a planet known as the pole star, Dhruva, which was never to be annihilated even at the time of the dissolution of the universe. Dhruva Maharaj attained this perfection not by acting harshly, but by patiently executing the order of his spiritual master. And therefore he became so successful that he saw the Lord face to face. Now he was further enabled by the causeless mercy of the Lord to offer fitting prayers to the Lord, to glorify or offer prayers unto the Supreme. One needs the Lord's mercy. One cannot write to glorify the Lord unless one is endowed with his causeless mercy. Text 6. Dhruva Uvacha. Jo nata pravisha mama vacham imam prasuptam sanjivati akhila shakti dharasva dhamna अन्यांश्च हस्ताचरणाश्रवणत्याग अधीन प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषस्य तुभ्यम्. Translation. Dhruva Maharaj said, my dear Lord, you are all powerful. After entering within me, you have enlivened all my sleeping senses. My hands, legs, ears, touch sensation, life force, and especially my power of speech. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you. But Dhruva Maharaj could understand very easily the difference between his condition before and after attaining spiritual realization and seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. He could understand that his life force and activities had been sleeping. Unless one comes to the spiritual platform, his bodily limbs, mind, and other facilities within the body are understood to be sleeping. Unless one is spiritually situated, all his activities are taken as a dead man's activities or ghostly activities. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has composed a song in which he addressed himself, O living entity, get up. How long shall you sleep on the lap of Maya? Now you have the opportunity to possessing a human form of body. Now try to get up and realize yourself. The Vedas also declare, get up, get up. You have the opportunity, the boon of the human form of life. Now realize yourself. These are the Vedic injunctions. Dhruva Maharaj actually experienced that upon enlightenment of his senses on the spiritual platform, he could understand the essence of Vedic instruction, that the Supreme Godhead is the Supreme Person, he is not impersonal. Dhruva Maharaj could immediately understand this fact. He was aware that for a very long time he was practically sleeping, and he felt the impetus to glorify the Lord according to the Vedic conclusion. A mundane person cannot offer any prayer or glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he has no realization of the Vedic conclusion. Therefore, when Dhruva Maharaj found his difference within himself, he could immediately understand that it was because of the causeless mercy of the Lord He offered obeisances to the Lord with great respect and reverence, completely understanding that the Lord's favor was upon him. This spiritual enlivenment of Dhruva Maharaj's senses and mind was due to the action of the internal potency of the Lord. In this verse, therefore, the word Swadhamna means by spiritual energy. Spiritual enlightenment is possible by the mercy of the spiritual energy of the Lord. The chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is first addressed to the spiritual energy of the Lord. Hare, this spiritual energy acts when a living entity fully surrenders and accepts his position as an eternal servitor. When a person places himself at the disposal or order of the Supreme Lord, that is called Sevan Mukha. At the time, the spiritual energy gradually reveals the Lord to him. Without revelation by the spiritual energy, one is unable to offer prayers glorifying the Lord. Any amount of philosophical speculation or poetic expression by mundane persons is still considered to be the action and reaction of the material energy. When one is actually enlivened by the spiritual energy, all his senses become purified and he engages only in the service of the Lord. At that time, his hands, legs, ears, tongue, mind, genitals, everything engage in the service of the Lord. Such an enlightened devotee no longer has any material activities, nor has he any interest in being materially engaged. This process of purifying the senses and engaging in them in the service of the Lord is known as bhakti or devotional service. In the beginning, the senses are engaged by the direction of the spiritual master or sastra, and after realization, when the same senses are purified, the engagement continues. The difference is that in the beginning, the senses are engaged in a mechanical way, but after realization, they are engaged in spiritual understanding. Text 7. Ekastam eva bhagavan idam atmasakya maya kyayaru gunaya mahad adi asesam sishtanuvishya purushastat asad guneshu nane vadarushu viva vasuvad vibhasi. Translation, my Lord, you are the Supreme One, but by your different energies, you appear differently in the spiritual and material worlds. You create the total energy of the material world by your external potency. And after creation, you enter within the material world as a super soul. You are the Supreme Person, and through the temporary modes of material nature, you create varieties of manifestation just as fire entering into wood or different shapes burns brilliantly in different varieties. But Dhruva Maharaj realized that the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, acts through his different energies. Not that he becomes void or impersonal and thus becomes all pervading. The Mayavadi philosopher thinks that the absolute truth being spread throughout the cosmic manifestation has no personal form. But here, Dhruva Maharaj, upon realization of the Vedic conclusion, says, you are spread all over the cosmic manifestation by your energy. This energy is basically spiritual, but because it acts in the material world temporarily, it is called Maya or illusory energy. In other words, for everyone but the devotees, the Lord's energy acts as external energy. Dhruva Maharaj could understand this fact very nicely, and he could understand also that the energy and the energetic are one and the same. The energy cannot be separated from the energetic. The identify of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the feature of Paramatma, the super soul, as admitted herein. His original spiritual energy enlivens the material energy, and thus the dead body appears to have life force. Voidist philosophers think that under certain material conditions, the symptoms of life occur in the material body. But the fact is that the material body cannot act on its own. Even a machine needs separate energy, electricity, steam, etc. It is stated in this verse that the material energy acts in varieties of material bodies, just as fire burns differently in different wood according to the size and quality of the wood. In the case of devotees, the same energy is transformed into spiritual energy. This is possible because the energy is originally spiritual, not material. As it is said, Vishnu Sakti Paraprokta. This original energy inspires a devotee, and thus he engages all his bodily limbs in the service of the Lord. The same energy as external potency engages the ordinary non-devotees in material activities for sense enjoyment. We think we should mark the difference between Maya and Swadhama. For devotees, the Swadhama acts, whereas in the case of non-devotees, the Maya energy acts. Text 8. त्वदत्तया वयुनयदिदम् अचस्तविश्वम् सुप्ता प्रबुद्ध इव नाथा भवत्प्रपन्ना दशापवग्र्या शरणं तव पादमूलम् विस्मरेते कृताविद कथम् अर्थबन्धु. Translation of my master, Lord Brahma is fully surrendered unto you. In the beginning, you gave him knowledge, and thus he could see and understand the entire universe. Just as a person awakens from sleep and visualizes his immediate duties, you are the only shelter of all persons who desire liberation, and you are the friend of all who are distressed. Now, therefore, can a learned person who has perfect knowledge ever forget you? But the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be forgotten even for a moment by his surrendered devotees. The devotee understands that the Lord's causeless mercy is beyond his estimation. He cannot know how much he is benefited by the grace of the Lord. The more a devotee engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord, the more encouragement is supplied by the energy of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that to those who are constantly engaged in devotional service with love and affection, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives intelligence from within, and thus they make further progress. Being so encouraged, the devotee can never forget at any moment the personality of Godhead. He always feels obliged to him for having achieved increased power in devotional service by his grace. Saintly person like Sanaka, Sanatan, and the Lord Brahma were able to see the entire universe by the mercy of the Lord through knowledge of the Lord. The example is given that a person may apparently abstain from sleep all day, but as long as he is not spiritually enlightened, he is actually sleeping. He may sleep at night and perform his duties in the daytime, but as long as it does not come to the platform of the working in spiritual enlightenment, he is considered to be always sleeping. A devotee, therefore, never forgets the benefit derived from the Lord. The Lord is addressed here as Artha Bandhu, which means friend of the distressed. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, after many births of executing severe austerities in search of knowledge, One comes to the point of real knowledge and becomes wise when one surrenders unto the supreme personality of Godhead. The Mayavadi philosopher who does not surrender unto the supreme person is understood to be lacking in real knowledge. The devotee in perfect knowledge cannot forget his obligation to the Lord at any moment. Text 9. नूनं विमुस्ता मतयस्तव मयायते ये त्वं भवपया विमोक्षणम् अन्नहेतो अर्चन्ति कल्पकातारुं पुनपो पभोगयम् इच्छन्ति यत् स्पर्शजं निरयति नृणाम्. Translation: persons who worship you simply for the sense gratification of this bag of skin are certainly influenced by your illusory energy. In spite of having you are who are like a desired tree and are the cause of liberation from birth and death. Foolish persons as such as me desire benediction from you for sense gratification, which is available even for those who live in hellish conditions. But Dhruva Maharaj is penitent because he had come to the Lord to render devotional service for material profit. He here condemns his attitude. Only due to gross lack of knowledge does one worship the Lord for material profit or for sense gratification. The Lord is like a desired tree. Anyone can have whatever he desires from the Lord, but people in general do not know what kind of benediction they should ask from him. Happiness derived from the touch of skin or senses happiness is present in the life of hogs and dogs. Such happiness is very insignificant. If a devotee worships the Lord for such insignificant happiness, he must be considered devoid of all knowledge. Text 10. Ya nirvirtistanu tava pada padma dhyanad bhavaj janakatha shravanena vasyat sa brahmani sa mahimani abhinathamaabhut vim tava antakashi dulitat patatam vimana. Translation: My Lord, the transcendental bliss derived from meditating upon your lotus feet or hearing about your glories from pure devotees is so unlimited that it is far beyond the stage of Brahmananda, wherein one thinks himself merged in the impersonal Brahman as one with the Supreme. Since Brahmananda is also defeated by the transcendental bliss derived from the devotional service, then what to speak of the temporary blissfulness of elevating oneself to the heavenly planets, which is ended by the separating sword of time. Although one may be elevated to the heavenly planets, he falls down in due course of time. But what? The transcendental bliss derived from devotional service, preliminary from Sravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting, cannot be compared to the happiness derived by karmis by elevating themselves to the heavenly planets or by jnanis or yogis who enjoy oneness with the supreme personal Brahman. Yogis generally meditate upon the transcendental form of Vishnu, but devotees not only meditate upon him but actually engage in the direct service of the Lord. In the previous verse, we find the phrase Bhavapaya, which refers to birth and death. The Lord can give relief from the chain of birth and death. It is a misunderstanding to think, as do the monists, that when one gets relief from the process of birth and death, he merges into the Supreme Brahman. Here it is clearly said that the transcendental bliss derived from Savanam Kirtanam by pure devotees cannot be compared to Brahmananda or the impersonal conception of transcendental bliss derived by merging into the absolute. The position of karmis are still more degraded. Their aim is to elevate themselves to the higher planetary systems. It is said, Yanti Deva Vrata Devan Persons who worship the demigods are elevated to the heavenly planets. Bhagavad Gita 9.25. But elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita 9.21, we find Shina Punya Martha Lokam Vishanti. Those who are elevated to the higher planetary systems must come down again as soon as the result of their pious activities are exhausted. They are like the modern astronauts who go to the moon as soon as their fuel is used up. They are obliged to come back down to this earth. As the modern astronauts who go out the moon or other heavenly planets by force of jet propulsion have to come down again after exhausting their fuel. So also do those who are elevated to the heavenly planet by force of jnanas, uh, jagdas and pious activities. So also limited to the heavenly planets by force of yajnas and pious activities. Antakashi Lulitat, by the sword of time, one is cut from his exalted position within this material world and he comes down again. Dhruva Maharaj appreciated that the results of devotional service are far more valuable than merging into the absolute or being elevated to the heavenly planets. The words Patatam, Vimanat are very significant. Vimana means airplane. Those, those who are elevated to the heavenly planets are like airplanes, which drop when they are run out of fuel. So today we'll stop here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we'll continuously reading Srimad Bhagavatam and we'll read tomorrow after where we'll stop here. So Mataji, you have any question from today's Bhagavatam class?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
No questions.
No questions? Okay. Thank you so much for joining this Srimad Bhagavatam class. You get up very early in morning.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.